All right, so everyone is here. Welcome. With this is the first session at Startup Yale, and we are really looking forward to get this started. I'm gonna stop the music. And welcome. My name is Victor Padilla Taylor, and I am the Director of Networks at SciCity. This beautiful building here, which is waiting for you with open arms whenever you can visit. We want to welcome you to the first session this week for Startup Yale 2022 called Immerse and Interact. Startup Yale is our largest student innovation event on campus, where Yale innovators join community leaders, investors, and practitioners to reimagine the future. And we're gonna have a blast because we have 3 teams that are really making a social impact, in society. If you want to know more about Startup Yale and the partners that are making this possible, just scan this QR code that will take you to our entrepreneurship and innovation website. These largest awards that we give in 3 days, packed with pitches and prizes and world-changing ideas wouldn't be possible if we didn't have the help of our partners. You can also check these other QR or the newly launched Yale Ventures website to learn more about what else is happening at Yale and this new and exciting initiative. There is an organization launching the Yale Innovation Summit scheduled next month. So check it out. I'm sure that you're going to like it. Again, as a reminder, go to city.yale.edu if you have not already done so to register for more events. We have 7 other Startup Yale sessions coming these next days. We want to invite you to listen to our wonderful teams pitching multiple ideas for areas such as education, social impact, sustainability, technology, and more. And for example, today, this afternoon, the New Haven Civic Innovation Prize at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time is going to be presented. And the teams are looking really strong. 4 teams are pitching for a prize that awards up to $10,000 to the best student or community-led venture or project focused on benefiting the city of New Haven. Now, back to this session. We're gonna spend approximately 1 hour interacting with these 3 incredible Yale startups who are making a big impact on society, as I mentioned. They are called Junzi, Hugo and Hoby, and Coral Vita. And before that, I just wanna acknowledge the following. But before this, even though this is a virtual event, we would like all of us to acknowledge where Yale University is situated, and at the same time, recognize those who occupy this land before us. We acknowledge that indigenous peoples and nations, including Mohegan, Mashantucket Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Chattahoochee, Golden Hill Paugussett, Niantic, and the Quinnipiac and other Algonquin-speaking peoples have stewarded throughout generations the lands and waterways of what is now the state of Connecticut. We honor and respect the enduring relationship that exists between these peoples and nations and this land. So, all right, thanking our sponsors, my team, our partners at Yale, our presenters and judges. Let's get started. Today we will go on a virtual tour, featuring 3 Yale alumni ventures and their initiatives. And the first one is called Junzi. It's a venture reimagining the future of Chinese food in America. Thank you, Yong Zhao, for joining this session. Then we will
Hello.
have Hugo and Hoby, a venture that began with a simple mission to make beautiful, locally crafted and sustainable furniture more accessible. Thank you, Ben Young, for being here. And last, we will hear from Vita, a B corporation which grows climate change resilient coral up to 50 times faster through a commercial model that restores dying reefs at scale. Thank you, Sam Teicher, for joining, for your participation. Each of these startups will have about 5 minutes to explain to us what is the problem they are tackling and the solutions they have created. After these virtual walkthroughs, we will follow with 8 to 10 minutes of additional questions for each of them to learn more and immerse ourselves into the type of structures that they have created to support their solutions and operating models. And before the end of this session, we will bring all of our presenters together for a final round of questions sourced from, from you. We're going to be using Poll Everywhere, which I will show you how to use in a minute. And it's a pretty easy way to engage with our speakers. We will adjourn at 1 p.m. Eastern time to rest a little before reconvening at 5:30 p.m. this afternoon for our first speech event, the New Haven Civic Innovation Prize. All right, so let me explain how Poll Everywhere works. So it's pretty easy. You basically, grab your phone, catch this QR code, and that will take you to a survey form called Poll Everywhere, where you will be able to write any questions that you may have for Junzi or Hugo and Hoby or Vita. You can also go to pollev.com/Victor with double C. And by the way, just dismiss the cookies question and skip the name. Just add your question and upvote those questions that you think are going to be quite interesting. So basically, it's going to look like this, at the beginning. I'm pretty sure that some of you that have already worked on this are already logged in and writing your questions. Let's just wait 10 seconds to see who was the first one to write something. And all right, we already have one question. So thank you so much for the person that asked this question. There comes another one. All right, thank you so much. You can actually tag any team that you want to address your question to. So anyways, this is going to keep running in the background. So keep, writing your questions. We're going to be able to come back to this as soon as possible. Without further delay, let's get started with Junzi. So Young, the floor is yours. You have access to share your screen. You can get us rolling right now.
Yep. Okay, is that working?
Let's see.
Share screen or just a video chat?
Will you be sharing a presentation or are you chatting only with us?
Just chatting.
Okay, all right. So let me then spotlight you so that everybody can look at you. Give me a second.
Yep. So I'm in the restaurant. I show you
Awesome.
this.
Go ahead.
Yep. So my name is Young. I'm the founder of Junzi Kitchen. So we started at Yale when I was doing my PhD in the environmental school. So my landlord is a typical Chinese restaurant owner, still at Yale right now. But most common problem is his daughter and his son doesn't want to take over a restaurant when he wants to retire. So the same thing happened in all the Chinese restaurateurs at Yale, and also happened in every immigrant family in America, like who was operating Chinese restaurants. So last 5 years, we actually lost 30% of the Chinese restaurants in America, reduced from 46,000 Chinese restaurants to 34,000 right now. Just because the Chinese people want to get out of the Chinese restaurant business. So you go to a Chinese restaurant, you typically see the family operations. When have parents, like the wife is in the front counter and the husband is in the back with a greasy shirt in a big long wok, hard to operate, and the kids running around to do deliveries or pick up phone calls. But now that's gone. It's going over because China is no longer exporting that much of immigrants to America. So we're seeing the most popular, beloved Chinese, the ethnic food in America. Chinese food is facing an existential crisis because immigrant family changes. So what we're seeing today is find a new solution to be able to change the institution operations and brands, everything, running Chinese food from 1980 to 2020. So Junzi Kitchen is a startup featuring a kind of Chipotle over 3 green style of Chinese food operations without dependence on Chinese chefs. In the meantime, featuring authentic and healthy Chinese food. So, well, since I'm here in the restaurant, I can show you quickly how do we change it. So here, this is restaurant looks like, and you can see that the line of operation is basically like you take assembly line of the food and assembly bowl really quick for lunch. And the whole kitchen is basically really designed for the purpose of reduce the traditional way of cooking, so that we can stop using the woks, which is very hard to operate, expand beyond use Chinese immigrant labors. So we first started 2015, and then we have expanded in New York City. This one actually you're seeing is in the Columbia University, and we've been operating in Bryant Park in the NYU until we hit COVID. So right now, actually, it's kind of coming back from COVID. The store is relatively still not as busy as before. We're recovering, and you're even doing better. So yeah, that's kind of what our venture is. But also, Junzi Kitchen is the first generation product. Actually, we're launching a new generation brand called Nice Day Chinese. This is a Nice Day Chinese brand is basically directly tackles the problem of American immigrants exiting Chinese immigrants exiting the Chinese restaurant business. So we actually buying out traditional Chinese restaurants, and we buying out and renovate the business. It's called Nice Day Chinese. It's been recently covered by Today's Show. So you can see that brand as well. So we're looking for in the next few years, trying to acquire as much as 1,000 restaurants in America to be able to do that. And actually, we are working on to acquire one of the legacy chain restaurants in a Yale community, which is called the Ivy Walks, to open a Nice Day there, which is our neighbor of Junzi Kitchen over there. All right, so that's I think that's my 5 minutes.
That's awesome, Young. Let me go back to you. And yes, so it's wonderful to see, you know, how you have grown this business out of even a personal experience. Let me go to the first question that we had for you.
Yep.
Let's see. Yes. So what exactly is it that you are trying to tell the world about Chinese food? What's the motivation?
Yeah, so Chinese food is it's one of the richest food traditions, and also was most diverse ethnic food in the world. Well, if you think about population-wise, actually one of the biggest, largest consumed food style in the world as well. So what we're trying to tell in the world is, inside China, there's a huge amount of diversity and different way of eating Chinese food. We want to create a new institution model to be able to express or communicate the tradition and the future of Chinese food with the whole modernization of operation model. So Chinese food could right now be considered as the America. You can see the traditional American Chinese food being considered unhealthy, greasy. But in the world, there's a lot of more. There's a lot of healthy Chinese food. There's a lot of daily food. So there's so much more can tell Chinese food. What we want is to create a new sustainable way to be able to operate and communicate and deliver the product to the world, especially in the post-COVID world, which is a lot of people doing more deliveries. Chinese is one of the largest delivery-based food in America, in North America, in UK, in Australia. Is always the largest in the delivery food. So I see that is the future. I see how can we make it happen. without dependency on the cheap Chinese immigrant laborers.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Another question that we have for you is this one. I mean, and it relates not only to COVID, but you know, this situation with inflation. Where do you see growth coming your way in spite of rising prices for ingredients and even real estate, you know, going up due to inflation and the current crisis?
Yep, that's a fantastic question. Actually, every restaurant in the world or every restaurant in America is facing the same problem. So do I. So do us. So what we're seeing our opportunity is actually like what we're facing the Chinese restaurant business overall is. The 95% Chinese restaurant in America is operated by single families, small operators. So they are having the whole extension problem because existing problem because of sorry, I turn on the music a little bit because they cannot face it this long. So we're seeing this opportunity trying to be able to operate with a chain restaurant in the scale, so we can centralize operations, centralize the productions, centralize the brand, so we'll be able to have a much better deal on the real estate, much better deal on the purchasing of ingredients, be able to take over the market. So Chinese restaurants have a huge white space is because all these traditional restaurant owners, if they're exiting the places, we lost 14,000 in the past 5 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's a terrible situation. And
Yeah.
the thing is that you have the entrepreneurial spirit. It's not the first challenge that you meet, I'm sure. The last question that we have before, you know, drawing you along with your peers to the last round is this one. Going back to your art, so to speak, what type of adjustments have you made to your own recipes and the side dishes you offer to your customers?
Yes, so from the recipe side, the traditional Chinese way of making food, a lot of hand making, handcrafting. So we have to adjust the whole way of making food, trying to get the same result of the flavors and the textures and way of eating without dependence on the traditional way of making. So which means we actually change a lot of way of recipes and side dishes, everything to make it easier to make and consistencies without dependency on the techniques of being the Chinese chef, but trying to maintain the same flavors and being authentic. So that's easy to say, but there's a lot of tweaking and engineering. And also, not every dish we can bring in this operation model. So which means we will find the specific dishes that will fit in this model, be able to really kind of bring the operation without sacrifice of a taste of flavor and authenticity.
Well, thank you so much. We're going to come back to you. Now it is our turn to get Hugo and Hoby here. And Ben, are you there? Are you ready to share your screen?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much thanks for having me on. And yeah, so I'll give a quick preface, which I'm actually on vacation this week, so down in DC. So I pre-recorded a little tour of our space. But one of the things I'll share before I share my screen is we're a little bit different, I think, than some of the other teams in that, you know, we have our own warehouse, we work at an office, and I'll show those both on the tour. But I think one thing that's a little different about ours is that we don't own our own fabrication shop. We partner with about 75 fabrication shops kind of from DC all the way up to Maine. So at the very beginning of the video, I'm actually going to show you sort of our promo video that shows a little snippets of both what our company does, but also little snippets from our shops that I think kind of, we spend half our time in our partner shops and half our time in our own facilities. So you'll get a chance to see both. So anyways, without further ado, I'll kind of share this. All right. Can everyone see? All right. You guys see?
Furniture is so much more meaningful when you know the story behind the materials that it was made from, the fabricators who made it.
As you're fabricating locally in a way to build community. That's our why. That's why we do it. When you think about the way you're going to construct or fabricate or design a piece before you actually do so, you're really thinking about the story it's going to tell. From the initial design meetings to fabrication to the locality of where the piece is being made and where it's going to go, all of that is so important.
I think we're just really lucky to have that opportunity to get to be involved in that collaboration. And at the end of the day, we're building furniture, but it's so much more than that.
That was a really good answer. Hi, I'm Fred.
And I'm Ben.
And we're the co-founders of Hugo and Hoby. We are a full-service design and fabrication company.
At Hugo and Hoby, we work with over 50 fabrication shops up and down the East Coast to design, fabricate, and deliver to commercial customers across the nation. When we approach a project, Fred and I are really thinking about who's going to be the best partner to work with on this particular project. The designers and the architects that are thinking so thoughtfully about an amazing space that they have the opportunity to be involved with. What materials really match the aesthetic?
So whether you are building one piece or you need 1,000 built, it allows us to be extremely scalable. Really, the environment and an eye towards sustainability is at the core of everything we do.
Our partnership with 1% for the Planet and planting trees with every project is really one of the most exciting parts of leaving our land and our cities better off than we found them.
As you're building, I mean, you can literally be growing and leaving forest behind. What an incredible legacy that can be for everyone involved.
Working with the people we do, it's a face-to-face interaction, and why build a piece of furniture, thousands of miles away when you're bypassing some of the best fabricators in the world, honestly, and using some of the beautiful species right here. And so I think it's just the right way to build furniture. We get to work with an incredible group of clients from restaurants and boutique hotels and offices, architects, interior designers on these incredible projects.
The thing that ties those customers together is just that higher level of expectation, I think. Knowing where a piece comes from, knowing how it's made, being involved in the creation process, it's a totally different way to look at things and to build things.
The product is furniture, but I think what we're ultimately doing and achieving is building better communities that occupy spaces that are just incredibly thoughtfully designed.
Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Ben. I'm one of the co-founders of Hugo and Hoby. We're going to show you the warehouse skills. We're joined by Shika, who's one of our amazing designers who went to the School of Architecture and now works at Hoby. And yeah, so we're a warehouse space. So we're down in New Haven, Connecticut, just by East Rock. So just kind of under the highway, right by East Rock. We have this large roll-up door warehouse that we use for designs that come in and out of our warehouse, photographing, meeting with clients, etc. So I'll point out a couple things. So we currently actually just got about 2,000 board feet of salvaged urban spalted maple, walnut, and then we have white oak coming that we're going to be using for conference tables and desks, and they're all made from trees that came down in Connecticut cities. So we're super excited about that. Shika just showed our material sample wall. So we kind of, when we take clients, we oftentimes will show them concrete and wood and upholstery when we meet about projects and about designs that they're kind of interested in purchasing. And then over here, this is a kind of setup that we use for a photo shoot. We actually just did a big photo shoot yesterday and had a photographer come in. And yeah, we shot this conference table, which we're super excited about. That's one of our kind of standard Hugo and Hoby conference tables. And yeah, the shoot came out super well. So we'll go to the back. Our warehouse is actually surprisingly, it's kind of full at times. It's actually surprisingly empty. We often have big projects kind of in and out. Right now, we don't have them in storage, but in a few weeks, it'll flip. Yeah, and it's kind of mural showing that we work with fabricators kind of from DC all the way up to Maine. A network of about 75 fabrication shops, and kind of in a map showing some of the people we work with and where they are. And then back here, we kind of use again sort of staging pieces when they come out. Sometimes we do photo shoots, etc. We've got a wall in the back, storage area, bathrooms in the back. Yeah, it's a great warehouse. And next, I'll show you District, which has a co-working space called Drive Co-working, which is literally across the street. So it's really great because we have our warehouse here, and then we have Drive Co-working across the street, which I'll take you on a tour of. All right, see you then. All right, hey everybody, we're here at District, where we have a huge technology campus in New Haven, and we typically work out of Drive Co-working, which is located here. During the pandemic, we went down to not having an office, just the warehouse, but I'll take you on a tour of the space because it's where we normally work as an office space. And we actually did all of the custom furniture for the space. So we'll take you on a quick tour. So we did like these cool bus booths here. So this used to actually be an old bus depot, this building, and they converted it into this amazing technology campus, like a CrossFit, a yoga studio, and barbecue, and co-working. And then private offices for bigger firms. So we'll come over here and I'll show you some space. So you'll see like we did some of these custom communal tables for this Comcast lounge, which is pretty nice, all white. We did some pieces for Connecticut Innovations here, which has their big private office here. And then we did some of these are one of my favorite pieces we've done. These are these mobile booths. So they actually have casters. You can move them around. You can lock the wheels. And they have these cool white booths. How's it going? Right? A quick little tour. Thanks so much. So yes, this is Drive Co-working. This is the co-working space in the district. And I'll show you some of the pieces we did here, but it's a really amazing space for startups, lots of sort of young companies, sort of 1 person to 6 to 12 people typically located here. Again, out of the pandemic, we normally have an office here. And beautiful space. So people in New Haven, if you ever want to come check it out, it's a really great space to work as an entrepreneur. So I'll kind of stop things there just for the sake of time. But yeah, it's an amazing co-working space down there. We did kind of all the custom furniture for it. So was always a lot of fun because when we take clients there to work, like we both, work there, but we also did all the furniture for the space. So it's a really amazing space to kind of showcase, a project that we've done in the past as well.
It's incredible, Ben. I that I cheer for you. We graduated together, back in 2015 from SOM, and it's incredible the progress you've made. So the questions we have for you are, related to some of the things that you mentioned. For example, this question about, value proposition, and what do you tell those that it's impossible to see beautiful and affordable at the same time?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great question. It's something we've sort of learned how to answer over the years. One of the things we've discovered is that to make a beautiful space, you don't need every single piece to be the most amazing, incredible, expensive pieces. What you really need is a really great place to start. So really great architecture. And then you just need 1 or 2 really sort of what we call statement pieces to really make a space shine. And those, the architecture along with 1 or 2 pieces surrounded by sort of more affordable furniture oftentimes has that wow factor. And so I think a lot of people get deceived into thinking that you need every single piece in the room to be very expensive, very high end. And it's really not true. You just need 1 or 2 kind of statement pieces. And we tend to do those pieces for Hugo and Hoby for spaces.
I think we do have at Sci City, by the way, some of these statement pieces. Truly, truly love them.
You do, exactly. Big curved booths up on the second floor, upholstered banquettes, exactly.
Exactly. Another question for you is this one. What type of partners, local or beyond Connecticut, are key to your current success, as a sustainable startup?
I'd say our whole business is run on making great partnerships. I think what we've learned from doing business over the years is that, a lot of these great shops and partners and sustainable enterprises already exist. So, everything from our network of about 75 shops of these amazing furniture companies and fabricators that already exist, sort of family run businesses. They tend to have sort of old school websites and phone numbers and things, but they just do incredible work, and we're sort of bringing access to them. And same thing on the sustainability side. We're a certified B Corp. We're a 1% for the Planet member. We partner with lots of environmental nonprofits like the Nature Conservancy or One Tree Planted, Urban Resources Initiative in New Haven, to do our tree planting. So with every purchase, we plant trees. We've planted almost 50,000 since we started, which we're very proud of. And yeah, we partner with these existing organizations to kind of do planting initiatives and things like that. So our whole company is built on the idea that partners are the key to making it happen. You can't just do it by yourself.
Yeah, and on that, description you just shared, I mean, how important was it for you and your co-founders to register your company as a certified B Corp? Was that a make or break decision?
I think it's one of the things we're most proud of doing as a company. We get asked a lot, like, how does being a certified B Corp, impact your bottom line and things like that. And to be honest, we really just did it because we felt very strongly that it was the most sort of important certification that really, tells you if you really are. Lots of companies say you're a social enterprise. I think it's the highest standard that really evaluates your company to say, are you really a social enterprise, or do you need to work on it? And one of the things we found is it really pushed our company. We thought we were doing a really good job, and it pushed us to do an even better job at how we hire, which partners we work with, how much impact we do both through our furniture and giving back. So it's extremely rigorous. We're very proud of it. And it gets harder, you reevaluate every 3 years. So if you just stay the course, you probably won't get certified 3 years later. So you have to continuously improve as a company. So I think it's very, very important. And we've learned a lot from doing the certification process.
Thank you so much, Ben. As I mentioned, truly, truly inspiring. All right, now let's go to Coral Vita. Are you there, Sam?
I'm here.
Awesome. Let me put you on spotlight here. So there he is. Awesome. So Coral Vita, folks, walk us through where you are. You're not sun. You're not tan this time,
Yeah, I was
very tan.
Well, I had to emulate all the people up in New Haven just to, have a little bit of empathy. I'm here in Grand Bahama. I'm at our coral farm in Freeport, and it's been quite a journey since we started this out of Yale back in 2015. My co-founder Gator and I, when Hugo and Hoby and Junzi Kitchen Junzi were getting started. So it's great to see everyone on the line today. And we are standing right now in front of our coral tanks. So for a little bit of background, we grow corals to restore dying reefs. That's the short version. For those who aren't aware, half of the world's coral reefs are already dead, and we're on track to lose over 90% by 2050, which obviously is an ecological catastrophe. But it's also a socioeconomic catastrophe as well, because coral reefs are one of the most valuable ecosystems on the planet. So all told, up to 1 billion people in over 100 countries and territories depend on corals. They sustain 25% of all marine life, despite taking up less than 1% of the seafloor. They power tourism economies. They shelter coastlines from storms by reducing wave energy. They sustain fisheries. So all told, they generate an estimated $2.7 trillion a year. So their death is a serious problem, not just for the environment in its own sake, which I personally think is worth fighting for them on their own, but really for economies, for nations and whatnot. So actually, I'll turn my camera around because you don't need to see me as I talk. But I'm standing here in our welcome center right now at the coral farm. I won't linger on these signs for too long, but what we're doing here is we have basically a coral production facility that also serves as both an education center and a tourism attraction. So actually, this morning we had a group of tourists come through the farm. And what we're trying to do that's different is incorporate breakthrough methods developed by scientists from around the world to grow corals in months instead of decades and to strengthen the resilience to climate change threats, but also to take a commercial approach to this. So coral farming existed for several decades. Between college and grad school, I lived out in Mauritius in the Indian Ocean, worked for my friend's NGO and got a grant from the UN to do a traditional coral farm. So rather than these sort of tanks you see in front of you here in a land-based aquaculture system, most projects grow corals in underwater gardens that are funded by a grant here and a donation there. And organizations and communities and scientists doing amazing work, but at the end of the day, that just doesn't scale. I don't know if anyone's ever applied for a UN grant. It's not the most fun. That one grant in Mauritius let us grow 5,000 pieces of coral once, and that's like planting 5,000 saplings. And one island nation like Mauritius alone needs closer to 5 million corals every year. And so Gator and I were thinking about how, again, there's all this immense value around coral reefs. We both have a personal passion for them. I've been a diver since I was a kid, and Gator grew up by the ocean in San Diego. But we recognize that unfortunately the environment isn't protected for its own sake often enough. And so we're basically using these farms as tourism attractions, experiential centers. People can pay to visit on their holidays and you can adopt coral online. But really what we're looking at is that we're trying to create this new model where people who actually depend on coral reefs hire us to restore the reefs they depend on. Meaning hotels and governments, insurers, property owners, cruise lines, anyone who depends on those tourism, coastal protection, fisheries benefits of reefs can hire us to restore them. And so while we work on setting up those contracts, we grow the corals. And so I was mentioning before how we can grow the corals faster. So if you look at one coral, like this one right here, you're actually looking at an animal. And it's made up of hundreds, if not thousands and tens of thousands of identical genetic copies. These coral polyps are clones of one another. And what was discovered is if you cut up a single piece of coral, like this one here, this mustard hill coral, and you cut it up into these tiny little micro fragments from the same original colony and you put them near each other, it triggers a natural healing process like scar tissue almost, and the corals will fuse back into themselves. Because some corals can reach decades or take decades to reach the size of sort of your hand or a dinner plate. These corals are already starting to fuse over the plugs that they grew on. You can see here, this is a full piece of coral. There's no more of that white plug, and they're growing towards their neighbors in a matter of months and years instead of decades and centuries. And then we also, unlike being able to just sort of grow the corals out in the ocean and be subject to whatever conditions are out there, we control the conditions in our tanks. So we have a state-of-the-art aquaculture facility in the back. And we can basically take corals to the spa or we can take them to the gym. We can make the water quality just the way they like it to optimize for growth or for their health, or we can mimic projections for, say, future ocean temperatures. And we can stress harden the corals so that while they're fusing together, while they're growing in these tanks, they're in a better position to survive against climate change oceans, which threaten their health. So farm number one is here in Freeport, Grand Bahama. We ultimately want to do this work all around the world. There's about 100 countries and territories with reefs, and we're already starting to think through where our next farms are going to be. This is just a little taste of our education center. Hopefully gets people excited enough to come on down to the Bahamas and check things out. So we got a touch tank, sort of look into what a healthy coral reef could or should look like. This is a wave energy tank. So I mentioned before that coral reefs and mangroves actually protect coastlines from storms. And so they reduce wave energy before they actually come and hit our properties and or our homes. And yeah, I mean, it's an amazing organization to be a part of. We've got a fantastic team. Normally there's about 11 people here, but everyone's on lunch right now or inside. And I'll just sort of end by saying, one, that our job really shouldn't exist. We shouldn't live in a world where coral restoration is even necessary. Best thing to do for coral reefs is to stop killing them by solving for climate change and habitat destruction. But clearly that's not happening fast enough. And yeah, it's an honor to have sort of come this far. We had Prince William and Kate from the United Kingdom, believe it or not, here last month. And it all started with an idea we had on the back porch of grad school. And so this is the Coral Farm.
That's amazing. I understand that there was, I guess, some sort of influence from one of your brothers, right, to get into this field. So wonderful to see that. So I have some questions here, and I think you perhaps can relate to something that is affecting so many businesses. So considering how COVID-19 has turned out to be, how has Vita responded to or been impacted by this pandemic?
Definitely impacted. I can tell you that spending money to protect coral reefs is not high on the list of folks within the tourism industry who are struggling. Not to mention one of our revenue streams, as I mentioned, is actually getting people through the door at the farms. Mm-hmm. We actually reopened the farm in March 2020, just after we had gotten crushed by Hurricane Dorian, which was the strongest storm to ever hit the Bahamas. So the water got up basically to these rafters here. And so we had just gotten our lives back together when the pandemic happened. What we were actually able to do, though, we had achieved a lot of our key proof points at that stage and actually raised a new investment round and upgraded this pilot farm to a state-of-the-art facility. And so fortunately, we had enough money to sort of keep going and growing the corals at least. And we sort of focused on this digital adopt a coral campaign. So people from New Haven to New Mexico to Mombasa could support our work if they were interested in it. But yeah, definitely a heavy hit from the pandemic.
Yeah. And the other question we have for you is, so it seems like almost preaching, how important this type of work is, but what do you say to the normal folks? How do you make them care about the vitality of our reefs?
There's a few different ways to think about that. Some are selfish, some are practical. If you want to go on a nice beach vacation, put your toes in white sandy beaches, let alone scuba diving and snorkeling. In the tropics, often those beaches and then the reefs you could visit only exist because corals are healthy. If you live near the coast, they can protect you from storms. There are, speaking of the pandemic, already medicines on the market fighting everything from viral infections to arthritis and cancer that contain medicinal compounds that come from coral reefs. We often think about rainforests as nature's medicine cabinet. Experts estimate that there's 300 to 400 times more medicinal compounds in coral reefs than rainforests. If you like a seafood dinner, even if you're in Oklahoma, there's often a connection between even deep sea fish and the food chain and coral reefs. And even if you're concerned about refugees, where are people going to go if 1 billion people can't feed their families and pay the bills because their homes are underwater, their jobs are gone, because one ecosystem amongst many have collapsed. So by, I think, voting with your wallet or at the ballot box, if you're lucky enough to, we have the opportunity, I think, to drive our leaders to, again, better protect these ecosystems to sustain us all. So it doesn't matter if you've never gone scuba diving or lived near a coral reef, they definitely, their health matters to you.
It's incredible. So you're trying to convince the selfish, in a way, indirectly. So how easy or hard was your experience when you started this whole project, developing coral Vita, which, by the way, I love the name. I guess it comes from, I don't know, from Spain or something like life or.
Yeah, it's a little homage to the scientists in our world where life in Latin is vita, and then obviously in Spanish it's vita, which is derived from Latin. So yeah, coral life. I mean, listen, we had an idea in grad school, and we started off with $1,000 grant from Yale that we then applied for the Sabin Prize and didn't get it twice, but did get into the summer accelerator program, the former Yale Entrepreneurial Institute. And then we didn't get a single investment for 7 or 8 months. And I had sort of given myself a year to try and make it work. And then we got another sort of assistance when our first investor came on board, followed by more quickly second and third, and started snowballing. And then it was a matter of not just finalizing the round, but fleshing out the business model, figuring out what farm number 1 was going to be. And then obviously we got started and had a great round of successes, only to get hit by the strongest hurricane in recorded history in the Bahamas. Oh. So it's definitely had its ups and its downs. And I think the same could be said with anyone in a startup. And then if you throw on that you're a social enterprise or environmentally and climate focused startup, there's also corals that are literally dying in front of our eyes that we've seen since we've moved here. So we're very much on the clock. And that also, though, I think adds fuel to our fire to scale this up and make it bigger than better, because failure is not really an option when considering a world without coral reefs.
Agreed. So, well, thank you so much, Sam. We're going to bring all of you for a final round of questions. So give me a sec while I, spotlight Ben as well and Young. Give me a second here. Okay, so there we go. Spotlight. And Young, I will need your video on so I can spotlight you, Young. Here we go. So add spotlight. So great. So I don't know if you see that, but these are the questions that we got, and I can actually, we got plenty of them. I'm going to be highlighting some of them that you can jump to it or together or individually. But why don't we start with this one, which is quite interesting. We always think about milestones, and what was it in all of yours, in all of your cases? What was that development that made you realize, wow, this thing is really going to work out? I can spend my life doing this. Maybe we start with you, Young.
Before opening the first Junzi kitchen, we actually did 100 times of taste test around the YEIs. A lot of YEI staff and our co-hosts of other ventures have tasted a lot of our food before opening the first restaurants. And everybody tastes the food and say, wow, this is like nothing like the Chinese food tastes before. It feels healthy, they can do this every day. No matter if they're Chinese or not, they love it. So that will start to build confidence to provide this kind of what the Chinese grew up with, this healthy, authentic Chinese food flavors. And out of a lot of Chinese students, also after they eat it, they came out almost like tear in their eyes, like, wow, first time I feel this the home recipes, the home flavors. In the meantime, I feel the brand is very elevating from this traditional cliche Chinese like dragon pagoda stuff to feel more modernized. They feel themselves identity-wise. They feel like this is actually like a modern, legit the presentation of what they truly are. So that's kind of our goal is. That's what the name of Junzi Kitchen is about. It's about the personal integrity. That's what Junzi is about in the traditional Chinese philosophies. So that moment, I think the brand resonates with a lot of people, and the food really can tell the story. And also the functionality-wise, it's very easy to operate, and also tastes very good too. Then we build trust and build confidence.
Yeah, that's great. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, it's funny. It's so cool to see all these teams here because I still remember the days of hatching these ideas in grad school, and we're like all in the YEI trying to figure it out. And now all of a sudden, like we're seeing each other's spaces, which is so amazing. So yeah, I think one of them is at the very beginning, you need someone to take a risk with you to help you grow the brand. So for us, we do custom furniture for commercial spaces, but you need your first commercial spaces to be able to showcase to others. So I think for us, one of the big ones was we did a really big job for Boston Consulting Group, and we were still in our early phases, and it's so amazing how like one group and sort of taking a risk on you to kind of work on some custom pieces helps other groups do it. So once we had that project and a couple other restaurants under our belt, it was much easier to go to other clients and say, hey, look, we did this amazing co-living space and co-working space and Boston Consulting Group, and it makes it much easier to kind of build momentum. But it was a long period, kind of like Sam mentioned, where you're at the beginning, you're just kind of like trying to fight for that first sale to get other sales and other people interested. So yeah, and by the way, it never ends. Like, so there's never a moment where you say, yeah, this is going to work. Like, you're always kind of, there's the next level that you try to take your company to. So it's sort of a continuation. There's no sort of moment where you say we've arrived. It's the next hurdle to get over one, wherever you are.
Yes. Sam, now your turn.
I mean, when we finally started growing corals, I guess we spent a few years talking about growing corals. There's a big difference when you actually have water in the tanks and doing the work. So I definitely echo Ben's point. It's not like, yeah, then it's like, okay, now we got to grow these well, and now we got to get people to buy it, and how are we going to scale and onboard and this, that, and the other. So, but that definitely, I think, was a special moment.
Yeah. This next question is quite interesting. In fact, it's something that oftentimes I have a chat about with students, and it reads, maybe there's a student asking this question now: how important have your families been in your entrepreneurial journey? Did they invest, believe in you? This student says, not sure how that will go with my idea.
Well, I'm not on mute, so I guess I'll start. Super important for myself and for Gator. None of them invested, but I mean, I got my scuba certification when I was 13 years old from my parents for my bar mitzvah. And they also instilled in this sort of belief that you can make the world a better place. So to that end, definitely played a huge role in the fact, I mean, I didn't grow up thinking I was gonna be a coral farmer, but that lifelong love for the ocean and whatnot, not to mention that my brother is actually a former VC, and he actually is on our board and plays a huge role in really doing a lot of strategic thinking on our behalf and with us. And then Gator's parents and brothers too are also, I think, just huge advocates and supporters and people that we can lean on. So even if it's not a financial commitment, if you do have a family that's able to support you, even if it's just there for you when you need it, it definitely helps.
Yeah. Ben, any of you, Young?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think I feel very fortunate. I think Fred feels the same, my co-founder, that yeah, just having a family that kind of, my family's always been sort of like very supportive of, take a risk and, sort of go out there and like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you can always go fall back on something else. I think is tremendously helpful. And my wife, to be honest, and Fred's wife as well, is, our sort of biggest champions in this whole thing. And I don't know if we could have just started our business without, we didn't raise money. We just bootstrapped it. We really couldn't have done it without having spouses who had jobs in healthcare in those early years to kind of, give us some runway to work with. So yeah, they've been kind of our biggest supporters throughout, and yeah, very, very important, I think.
Plus, you got a grandfather-inspired legacy from you.
That is true. Exactly. So the company Hugo and Hoby is named after our grandfathers, Hugo Kukelhaus, Fred's grandfather, and my grandfather, Hoby Young. So we grew up learning woodworking and furniture making from them. So definitely.
Yeah. And I'll let you answer that same question, but let me just pull another one, which may be related. Let me see, I read it here. Yes, so this one is about Yale and the Yale network. How helpful has it been for development? So anyways, family slash Yale family, perhaps, how important has that been for your venture?
I mean, yeah, huge. I mean, the Chinese restaurant traditionally is a family business. So instead of the traditional way of a labor model, like the husband will cook in the front, in the back, and the wife in the front. So me and my co-founder also, one thing is my wife and also Yale alumni as well. So we're like a family business. But she is on the operations side. She's like COO, I'm CEO. In the meantime, the family really support us a lot, not only the investor, but also advisors all the time. Especially during COVID, a lot of foundings for the restaurant is really hard, and the raising money is very difficult during COVID. Actually, we have a lot of resources from there as well. So that's my family business, almost like family business. But in the meantime, Yale is a huge in our network as well. Like with a lot of investors from Yale, I mean, if you think about raising money, if you say I'm opening a Chinese restaurant, it's so hard to raise money from anywhere. But if you say I'm from Yale and want to do a different way of do Chinese restaurants, change the whole industry, the whole pitch without saying anything in details, like people want, okay, I'm listening, I want to hear more about it. What's the difference from Yale background to the Chinese restaurant business, traditional business? So that's helped a lot of networks, very important, especially VC world. Like you can find a lot of Yale alumni in every VCs. So you at least have a talk. So that's important.
Yeah. So, well, we're here for that. And I think that there are some developments in our ecosystem that would support precisely those opportunities for young innovators and entrepreneurs. I just want to say to everybody still in the room that, this was our first Startup Yale 2022 session, Immerse and Interact. Really great shots, guys, of your ventures. We're super grateful that you took time in your busy lives just to stay with us. We want to thank you and say that, hopefully this won't be the last time that we meet all together and see how you're growing your business. So we, of course, thank our sponsors. I thank my team and everybody involved in making this possible. Sam, Young, Ben, again, thank you so much. And yeah, we'll see each other around the corner.
Thanks so much for having us, and shout out to Matt Gira, who was in YEI way back when we first got this started, who's helped organize this too.
Yeah, definitely.
Small world. Where are you, Matt? Come and say hi.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. It's so cool. This is like, as you all mentioned, like the ideas, and it's really cool to see everyone kind of grow up and see these ventures. So thanks for being here, and thank you everyone for attending too.
Awesome. Have a good afternoon, guys. Goodbye.